Okay, so supplementary application questions, they always have a word limit. It may be, or a character limit. That's something to be careful about. It always says 300 words, 400 words, 800 words, and sometimes it'll say characters, 1,500 characters, for example. That usually includes commas, periods, and spaces. So be very careful with the word counts, but when you're actually writing your essay, first write down what you think. Don't worry about the word count when you're writing a first draft. So the types of questions that they ask. Here are all of these questions that I have here are from, some are from this year, some are from the last couple of years. So this one is Waterloo Computer Science. What family tradition do you value the most and why? This was an interview question. So they ask you and then you record, you have 90 seconds to answer and you record your answer on video. So Waterloo interview questions are listed on their website ahead of time. There's about 30 questions and you're asked 4 of them, but you can prepare ahead of time. Okay. Tell us about a time you found a creative solution to a problem. Also Waterloo, but a lot of other, Schulich Business School has a very similar question. Tell us about a time you were a good leader. Who's your role model is a very common question. Okay. Then there's problems that are asking how you actually solved a problem or to see how you can solve a problem. If you were a pencil in a glass, how would you get out? Marks are the best way to evaluate students, agree or disagree. Next, we have questions that are more personal essays where you have to talk about an experience that you've had. What makes you a good candidate for this program? This next question is actually from McMaster's from this year. So if you're applying to McMaster's Health Science right now, this year, this is one of the questions you should start preparing for. It's 1,500 characters, which is about 300 words. So like a little more than half a page. In his book, The Story of Success, Malcolm Gladwell explores the idea that success does not derive simply from a person's character or talent or ability, but also the accumulation of their experiences and opportunities, and notes that who we are cannot be separate from where we are from. Tell us about where you are from and how it has shaped who you are. I'm going to go over how to respond to these questions, what to do and what not to do, but where you're from does not necessarily refer to your ethnic background or your country of birth. You can say that you're from a family of teachers, you are from a family of people who value education, you are from an impoverished neighborhood, you are from a diverse, peace-loving, accommodating society. You are from a school that was really strong in sciences. You don't have to answer this with your place of birth or your ethnic background. Analytical questions. Option B, this is also this year's McMaster's Health Science if you're applying there. We trust easy opportunities. We're suspicious of complexities, distrustful contradictions, fearful of enigma. What dichotomy do you find to be especially problematic, and why do you think it is important to take a more complex view of that issue? This is a popular question. This is the first time I'm seeing it on McMaster's application, but I have seen this question on other universities in previous years. Dichotomy is like a duality, right? Like here they have examples: rich or poor, strong or weak, right or wrong, dichotomies. And then you have to pick a dichotomy that's most meaningful or problematic to you and then explain why you don't believe in it. With this question, I have seen it answered before. It's a popular question among different universities. The most creative answer that I have seen from students was the dichotomy between science and humanities, right? And the student felt that um, choosing between, or as a student, choosing between going into sciences or going into humanities is a very ridiculous dichotomy, because sciences and everything that we do in sciences, we do for humanity. And humanity is what pushes science forward. So it shouldn't be a dichotomy. It's a very closely connected thing. Okay, so I've answered the question about dichotomies. Dichotomies don't have to be political. It doesn't have to be rich or poor, conservative or liberal. It's better not to. It could be different in subjects like math or history. And as I said, the most creative answer was the dichotomy between science and humanities. A student explained how he felt it was ridiculous to think of those two things as separate. And he was right. Okay, questions related, and then there's questions related to the field, so the specific program that you're applying for. Pick a controversial issue in the field of medicine and discuss it. Clearly, a health science program. This was College of Surgeons in Dublin last year. It was not a Canadian. I don't remember. It was a medical school in Europe. I can't remember exactly, but in English speaking, obviously. So either Ireland or England. And we picked pacemakers for people over 85, for example, right? It's a very expensive procedure and it's a very expensive equipment. And is it worth it to perform those operations on people whose lifespan is not that long, anyways? Or should we save these more expensive procedures for people who are younger? That was a controversial issue among medical professionals, right? So you have to think like a professional here, not like a patient, but like a doctor. Another example, describe a space where you feel very comfortable. What aspects of the design are responsible for that feeling? Obviously, this is for an interior design program. I think it was Carleton University. What is your best advice when it comes to managing your money and financial literacy? Obviously, one of, I don't remember which, I think it was Laurier. I don't remember which university exactly, but I think Laurier Business, obviously a business school kind of question. And finally, there's questions related to university life. For example, this is taxes. Texas University, will you believe that delivery is an important part of academic excellence and that is essential to living our core values: loyalty, integrity, excellence, leadership, respect, and selfless service. Describe the benefits of diversity and inclusion for you personally and for the Texas A&M campus community. Up to 300 words. Okay, so this question I'm going to talk about separately because a lot of people ask me about diversity related questions. So this is about campus life and how you will contribute to campus life, not how you're going to be a good student, not how you're going to become a good professional, but how you're going to contribute to student life. So joining clubs, creating study groups, interacting with other students on campus, making sure that no one's rights are being limited and things like that. So these are the types of questions. Next, I want to talk about the kinds of things that you need to show in your answers. So what do universities want to know about you? This is important. This document is going to be be shared, and you can send a link to yourself because I gave everybody access. So you can send a link of this document to yourself. But it's also helpful to take notes because I might say more than I type in the document. So, what are they trying to figure out about you? Most importantly, have you done your research on the school? Okay, they want to see an application that is written specifically for them and about them. They don't want you to copy paste the same application to all the universities that you're applying to. They want to know that you have done your research on their program. How do you do that? How do you do your research on a program? It's not enough to just go on their website because everyone will do that and you'll obviously do that. Follow their clubs, right? Universities have clubs. The universities have students run their own social media for their programs, right? So students who are in a certain program in the university are going to have their own Facebook group. They're going to have the program is going to have their own account on social media. So you could log in, get invited, see what they're talking about, ask them questions. Um, so follow their club's social media as well. See what kinds of events they run. Um, Look up the professors that are going to be teaching you, and then look up any books that they have written, any publications that they have written in any magazines, right? Um, Follow the different colleges within the campus, follow their students, there's bloggers, YouTubers among students. Find them and mention them in your university application, right? For example, a typical question, why do you want to be a student in our university? What attracts you to Waterloo, for example? You can't just say, Waterloo is Canada's best university for engineering, and I want to be an engineer, and that's what attracts me. You've got to mention the research that you've done that an average person doesn't do, right? So something like, I have recently read an article by Professor so and so who teaches in your program, and I found the issues that he discusses to be very relevant, something like that, right? Also, those same professors, they might be running their own businesses, and you may be interested in that. And if you find out what else they have going on, mention it in your applications. I went on the Instagram account of your swimming club and I saw that they do this, this, and this, and I want to be a part of that. I went um, I visited or I followed someone who is the president of your investment club, and they run all these events that I think are very helpful. So show that you have done additional research, right? I visited the university. I looked at your labs. You have incredible lab equipment. I can't wait um, to participate in the lab work that's going to be assigned. Make them feel like this university is your dream and you know everything about them. Okay, so go beyond the websites. They want to know that you're more than just your grades because universities know that grades have been devalued lately, right? A lot of schools will inflate grades so that they can show that more of their students are getting into universities. It makes them look better as a school, so they'll inflate marks so that their students can get in. Universities know about it. So they want to see that you have life experience beyond your grades, that you have participated in, that you had jobs, that you participated in events that are important to you, that you have personal experiences that add to your professional value, right? So don't mention any personal experiences that don't have anything to do with the program you're applying for. Again, I'll show you examples. They want to see social responsibility. This is really important. I'm going to highlight it. Social responsibility is that you are interested in a particular niche, like a group of people or an issue, and you show that in your application. So, for example, if you're going for engineering, don't just write, I want to be an engineer because I'm really good at math and I'm really good at science and my marks are great and I love building stuff. That's very general. I mean, that's what engineers do, but it's very general. Go for something small that you really care about. For example, I want, and then these are things that students actually wrote and they got into the universities of their choices. I want to build or design more durable infrastructure for coastal communities that are prone to flooding and hurricanes. That's a very narrow, specific issue within engineering, right? Coastal communities infrastructure that is constantly exposed to water is a little bit different than it might be in other communities. So that's very narrow and it shows that the person has a goal within their profession. And that goal is specific and that goal is shows social responsibility. You want to take responsibility for a specific group of people who live near oceans because you understand that that group is in danger. I had another student, also engineering, and he talked about smart wheelchairs, right? So people with physical disabilities who are in wheelchairs, and he wanted to contribute, he wanted to build smart wheelchairs that are easier controlled with voice commands, for example, right? So how are you going to apply the education that the university gives you to make the world a better place by contributing to a very specific problem? Okay. They want to know if you can handle pressure. There's a lot of failure related questions, right? What was a time when you did not accomplish something you were hoping to accomplish, for example, right? Um, because universities look bad when students, and I went to U of T, um, every year there was a couple of students who would throw themselves on the train tracks during exam time. Okay, there were several subway stations inside the territory of U of T. If you went to U of T, you know what I'm talking about. It's huge. Yeah, they want to know that they're taking someone on who can fail a couple of tests, pick up and move on, right? Someone who is not going to um, have a lot of problems that will create a dangerous atmosphere in the university. Are you a positive person? Are you going to get along with others? There's group work. Are they going to have to, get counselors and professors involved because you're always fighting with other students? Or are you going to be cooperative? That kind of thing. Do your values match the values of the university? So obviously that's education. Obviously that's whatever profession you are applying to. Some universities are known for a lot of group projects. You will find that in your research, those are the values that you want to instill. A lot of universities are involved in the communities. Those are the values you want to convey in your group of people, or resolving that narrow issue within your profession is going to be part of your clear goal. Are you going to be a liability? This is something that we have to talk about, especially these days when universities are in a lot of trouble, right? A lot of universities are in trouble, not only in recent weeks, in recent years, for not handling political conflict, not handling gender issues in a certain ways, not apologizing enough, apologizing for the wrong thing, not um, taking, not reprimanding a certain group if that group is making trouble, if that group is signing petitions, right? So they don't want you to be a liability. They don't want you to show strong views that are going to make them think, oh, this person is going to start a riot. This person is going to start a protest. We're going to have to deal with that. The journalists are going to arrive. We're going to be interviewed. We don't want that, right? They don't want to deal with anything that's going to make them look bad. Okay. Is everything okay so far? Am I going too fast? Are conditions for supplements stated when information is given to? Yes. If by conditions you mean um, things like how many words it has to be, then if by conditions you mean the kinds of things that they're looking for in the answer, no. No, it's not. What if someone doesn't have that narrow interest? You have to find that narrow interest. You have to come up with something. They're not going to hold you responsible for it when you graduate. And 20 years later, they're not going to come back to you and say, hey, listen, you still haven't built any smart wheelchairs, right? You said you're going to build smart wheelchairs. You're uh, building video games instead. What the hell? They're not going to do that. Okay, so you have to look things up, look for issues, right? And if you haven't built any water or flood resistant roads, they're not coming after you 10 years later. Okay. A majority of kids don't even know what they want to be at 18, much less discuss various facets of different groups. Yes. Are there some templates on how to answer these questions that you can recommend? The only thing I can recommend is do your research. Yes, it's true that kids don't know, but you obviously understand that a university is not going to take a kid who says, I have no idea what I want to do. Just take me in. My mom said it's a really good school. She'll feel proud of me. She said she'll buy me a car if I get in, right? Like, that's not going to get them in. They do want someone who looks like they have goals. Universities understand, because as grown-ups, we understand that an 18-year-old's goals can always change. And no one is coming after you. Okay. Yeah, so no one is coming after you if you don't follow up on the original goal or the original niche. Some examples of other niches. I had a student who got into Schulich this year. He didn't really have a lot of experience, but he worked, or he said that he worked in his dad's accounting firm. That's the only place where he volunteered. He helped his dad. And we were able to, and he's like, there's nothing, like, I showed up, I helped my dad, I did whatever, like, he couldn't think of anything. So we ended up but then I asked him, so how many hours in the evening and like the whole day on Sundays? And I said, well, that's an issue, because if he's your dad, then he has a family and he's working so much, right? So we ended up, and he was going into management at Schulich. So we ended up making his niche work-life balance, right? And being the kind of manager who creates an atmosphere where people can still have a life, where people don't have to be at work until 11 p.m. every day and all day on Sundays, right? So, and he did get in, so that must have worked. Okay, what's my next thing? So that's what they look for. Okay. What not to do. What not to do. Okay, there's two big Two big no's that I see students coming with, because most students come to me with, like, if students come to me for tutoring since they were young and I already know them, and then they're applying to university, we'll do it from scratch because they're already here anyway. But students who come in for university applications specifically will usually come in with a draft, right? And they'll say, like, I've written something, can you look it over, give me suggestions? So these are the two major mistakes that they make. Google a list of words to use on your university application, and then stuff your application like you're stuffing a pepper with those words. And then there's no personality. And I've seen times where the words that they're listing, like, I'll show you. For example, my experiences over the past few years have made me adaptable, assertive, accurate, caring, driven, creative, efficient, and team oriented. While facing adversity and overcoming challenges, I have developed resilience, time management, empathy, self regulation, work ethic, and problem solving skills. As a determined, goal oriented university student, I will motivate others by demonstrating ambition, independence, resourcefulness, and self awareness. Okay. I have seen applications where I read it and there's all these words. Like, you can Google a list of words to, like, if you Google words to use on a university application, you're going to get lots and lots and lots of websites with lots and lots and lots of lists and all the same words. I have seriously seen applications where I'd like read the entire 300 words, sometimes more, 500 words, whatever. And at the end, I look at the student and I have to ask them, so sweetie, what are you applying for? Because there's not a word about the kind of job that they want or the kind of program that they're applying to or what they're passionate about. It's all just these words. I'm such a wonderful person. Okay, great. You're a wonderful person. You trying to be a firefighter? You trying to be, we need wonderful people everywhere. What are you applying to? Right? So that's a big mistake. And I don't know if anyone has noticed, but the first sentence here, it's loosely, like, all of this paragraph actually, it's loosely in alphabetical order. You can see that the student like copied these words down and then switched them around a little bit, right? Like A, C, D, C, like caring and creative were probably on the list together, right? And then E, and then, like, don't do that. It's better to have less words, more experiences. Show, do not tell. So show experiences and accomplishments that demonstrate the skills and values. Less skills, more experiences, and more personality. Right? So don't make your application a list of words you Googled. It's very obvious and it has no personality. Another big don't tell a tragic story. I don't know where this rumor started, but a lot of my students come in thinking that, or they heard it somewhere, that it's a good idea to tell a sob story about yourself, something that, like, a tragic experience in your life. Tragic experiences do change who we are. It's true. But they don't make us good at a particular profession. They don't make us a good candidate for a particular program, right? Surviving a car accident doesn't make you a good engineer. Experiencing racism is not going to make you a good accountant. Unless you can spin that tragic experience and say that you found a way to fix a problem, you learned a life lesson that has made you great for the university, the program, the profession that you're applying to. right? So just being in a refugee camp doesn't make you a good engineer. Being in a refugee camp and figuring out how to set up um, kind of a do-it-yourself water purification system, that makes you a good engineer, right? So the focus then is on change and lessons learned, right? I've had very successful applications um, of students who like and showing that change and showing that you're capable of finding a problem and fixing it does not necessarily take a tragic experience, right? I have Ben's example. Okay. Um, so his was, I think I've already given it, was about the dad working in long hours, right? That's finding a problem and hoping to fix it. Another one was working at a tennis camp, not a tragic experience at all. Working at a tennis camp, seeing that kids were grouping, the ones that were good at tennis were showing off, not playing with the new kids, the beginners, and then the beginners were all kind of shy and away in the corner, and then finding ways to split the group and create design activities in such a way that the stars are not taking over and the beginners are still learning and developing and feeling confident, even though there's kids who are doing much better than them, right? So something like that. You found a niche that needed help and you solved the problem. All the experiences that you mentioned in your application, they all have to show that change, right? You can't just say, I'm good for a business program because I went to business camp and I worked at an accounting office. No. I went to business camp and I did this and I learned this and I changed something for other people. I worked at an accounting office and I noticed this problem and I realized that, and either you changed from the experience or you changed something within the experience, right? Obviously, when you're a student and you're working for an accounting firm, they're not going to let you redevelop their system. So maybe you changed. You started out feeling a certain way, and then your experience has led to a change. That change can be internal, right? With camp experiences, the change can be external. You changed the activities and you changed the way other people felt, but it's okay if the change is internal as well, as long as there's a change, not just the fact that you were present there. You showed up, that's not enough. There's another tragic experience, breaking an arm. This student was applying for physiotherapy. So he talked about his own childhood experience of breaking an arm while he was a pianist and a guitar player. And he couldn't do any of those things with a broken arm, and he understood that an injury, and that's something for a physiotherapist to understand, doesn't just have physical impact. It has emotional impact, the way it changes a person's entire life, and they have to change their goals and they have to find new hobbies if the injury is long term. So that experience and then the change that occurred is more empathy and deeper understanding of injuries beyond the physical. That looked very good on that application. Okay. Fruit question and minorities question. These are two that are, I'm going to use the fruit question, which was, if you remember, I showed it at the beginning. If you were a fruit, what fruit would you be? I'm going to use this question as an example to show you what they're looking for. Let me take a look at the chat and see if there's anything else. Okay. If all these questions should be answered in the manner that they expect you to, where are all these graduates? Every turn you make, you're nowhere to be found. Everything fails around medicine, infrastructure, buildings, subway extensions, 10 years in the rain. Yeah. Okay. So it is possible. I don't know if I can answer this question because there's a lot of systems here and I'm not an expert in any of them. Not in infrastructure, not in buildings, not in medicine, not in subway. But so one thing is 10 years ago, the application process was not that grueling. The people who are responsible for making these systems run graduated probably 20 years ago. They did not have to write these applications. That's one thing. And maybe that's why. Because it was a lot easier to get into university 20 years ago. And that's the generation of people who are running all these failing systems. Maybe that's what it is. I know there's a lot of questions that I listed, but there's only one you applying. So a lot of your experiences are transferable from letter to letter. So each time you apply to a university, if you're physiotherapy program, question? No? Okay. If you're applying for a physiotherapy program, for example, and you did break your arm and you learned from that injuries go beyond physical, and when you have to treat a patient, you have to treat the entire patient.
Maria, sorry, maybe try and mute us all again.
Qual que é o traído?
Because I think somebody's just unmuted, that's all.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah, somebody came off mute, I believe.
I can't remember how I did that. It was participants, right? Oh, here. Mute all. Okay. Good. All right. So your experiences will be repeated from university to university. What will change is the amount of research you show about the university. That has to be individualized for every program. Unless you're applying to a bunch of different professions, then yeah, you're gonna have to change it every time. Okay, so I wanted to use the fruit question as one example, and then the minorities question, because parents have been asking about that. So if you were a fruit, what fruit would you be? How do you show them all those things we wanted to show, that you're more than your grades, that you have goals, that you have values that align with values of the university with this question? Well, you get to explain, you don't just name the fruit, you get to explain why that fruit, and the fruit has to represent the values. So for example, if you say, if I were a fruit, I would be, I'm trying to think of something. I would be, is avocado a fruit? I'll go with avocado. I've done watermelon as well. Let's go with watermelon. I would be a watermelon because watermelon has a hard shell. So external trouble don't really penetrate the watermelon, and that represents the way I feel about my goals. Whatever happens externally, I don't let that dissuade me from who I am on the inside. And on the inside, the watermelon is really soft and accommodating, and you can cut it into many different pieces, and you can make fruit art with watermelons, and watermelons are often used to hold, for fruit tables, for example, watermelons are often used to hold other fruit and help other fruit look good, which is exactly what I do for my clients. I provide that base, that foundation based on which they can then make their writing and their applications look good. Something like that. If it was an apple, then you can say apples are very versatile in their use. You can use an apple in a salad. You can make wine with apple, you can use it for desserts, you can bake apples. And I feel that my skills are equally transferable. I All right, don't know why I disconnected. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. All right. So, minorities question. Okay. A lot of universities, I don't know if they're going to do that this year, but in the past couple of years, they asked, do you feel like you belong to a minority group? Or they'll have a question like, what culture or subculture do you belong to? Um, do you feel that you have experienced adversity because of your belonging to that group of people? Um, does it speak much about the quality of that university? Not necessarily. Um, there's policies. All universities are by similar policies. They have to be um, accommodating. They have to show tolerance. They have to show inclusion. So it's a trend. Like this question, I have seen it on applications, European universities, Canadian universities, American universities, and they're all different types of universities. It's just something that they have to ask. Would it be acceptable to insert some soft jokes in the application essay or supplementary question answers? Neutral jokes, yes. Depending on the kind of question, of course. Like if it's a fruit question, then like the question itself is a joke. Or an animal question, right? Your humor just has to be very neutral. It can't be the kind of humor that can offend anyone. And obviously, no profanities, polite professional language. Grade 11, she said that by September next year, she needs to apply for university. So only for grade 11 count towards university. No. So the application process starts in the fall, but they don't look at your marks until the end of the first semester. Sometimes for early admissions, they will look at grade 11 marks. Only a few universities do that, early admissions, and then some universities will take her based on her grade 11 marks. Usually they'll have additional applications and they want like the essays and they want to look at her experience. Programs that are very popular and very competitive don't do early applications. Early admissions. They wait until everyone's grade 12 marks are back. But they don't look at, you start applying, you submit your application, you submit your essays, you might have appointments. They don't actually look at your application, at your marks until later. And even that, the offer is conditional. So if your grade 12 marks don't come in at the right level, they might withdraw the offer and say, hi, sorry, we don't want you anymore. I've never seen that happen ever. But it is legal for them to do that. What was the answer to the minority diversity question? I haven't answered it yet. So a lot of my students are worried that answering the what minority do you belong to, what culture, sometimes it's a question more about culture or nationality, that kind of thing. A lot of my students worry that that's not going to help them because it's like that, white male from an upper middle class, like there's not enough um, adversity, there's not enough discrimination against certain groups. I don't want to sound like that there's not enough, just that's not what I meant to say. But that they're not going to want you because you belong to a privileged group. Right? It's usually part of pick one out of these two questions and you can pick it or you cannot. The thing is, it's not about your background. Again, it's like the fruit. It doesn't matter what fruit you say, it's how you show that the values and the characteristics. Right? So I have had students, like third generation Italians, um, answer that question and say, I'm third generation Canadian, Italian Canadian. And this is very important to me because I participate in community, especially helping the elderly. And the value there was our connection with the older generations and what we can learn from older generations. So if you emphasize that in the question, it doesn't matter what culture you belong to, right? As long as you show learning and you show something that you care about. So that was good. Another one was a very creative, and I used to recommend, like when parents ask me, so should we answer this question? If we don't answer it, is it going to make us look bad? No, it's optional. It's not going to make you look bad. So I would just say, like, just don't answer that. Answer the other question, unless you have something like really important. If you contributed to, like a lot of students showed leadership working with refugees from their culture, that shows leadership. That's excellent. You definitely want to put that up front in your experience. But if you don't really have anything that makes you look incredible that relates to your culture, I used to say skip that question. Just choose the other option until I asked myself, if I had to answer that question, how would I answer it? Do I feel like I belong to a minority? Do I feel like I belong to a group that's been heavily discriminated? And when I asked myself that question, the answer became obvious, and it's also quite creative, if you think about it. And I would say, yes, I do belong to a heavily discriminated group. And belonging to that group affects my values. It affects everything I do in my everyday life. And that group is teachers. And there's a lot of examples of how government policies lately have discriminated against teachers who are really trying to do a good job. There was also a lot of backlash at teachers during COVID when we all went online. I remember Facebook groups. I remember parents going on and on about how horrible teachers are. So I thought to myself, that's a creative way to answer that question, because cultures and subcultures, they don't have to be ethnic, right? You can belong to a subculture of dog owners. And there's a whole set of problems that people with dogs face. It's hard to travel, it's hard to book a hotel room. But if you really care, and if that relates to your profession, especially if you're applying for something like something to do with animals. Yes. Yeah, you can stay. Okay. Yeah. Like if you're applying for veterinary school, right, then that subgroup would be good. So if you can answer that question without touching anything sensitive, be creative. You may belong to a group of chess players and you always wanted to start chess club in school, but everyone made fun of you because your school was all sports, right? Your future profession may be a profession that whose needs are ignored by the government, or whose licensing is made extremely difficult by the government, and that's fine. That makes you a minority, and you can show the difficulties that you've gone through because of that. who decides which group is privileged or which group is a minority in the GTA? So we do have, I don't know who decides, but I know there's a new thing. Because we have to attend these like trainings and these workshops where they like teach you to be, all these things. And that was also where I got the idea of, like in one of the workshops, they talked about all these different ways you can identify, and they asked people to kind of like go around and say how they identify. And the man sitting next to me at the workshop was an obvious upper middle class straight white male, which is not a very popular way currently to identify yourself. So he stood up and he said, "This is my name, so and so, and I identify as a scientist." And he went first. And after that, everyone who stood up identified themselves through their profession. And that was great. I don't know who decides, but I know that like we get lists of underprivileged groups, and there's an idea of racialized groups, not races, but racialized groups. And that's a combination of race and income level of education of the parents, right? So like I don't know, if you're from, let's say, the Philippines, and your parents are doctors and you live in a wealthy neighborhood, you're not a racialized group. And if you're from Philippines and you live in a poor area and your family income is low, you are a racialized group. So it's combinations, right? We talk a lot about these dichotomies and these interconnected kind of personalities. Like you can be highly educated, which makes you privileged, but you could be a woman in a certain industry where no matter how highly educated you are, you can't really, like, it's still harder for you than if you were a man, right? So there's different, like, it kind of depends where you are, whether you're a privileged group or not. Would it be acceptable? Okay, jokes. University has a question like that. Their quality, no. Grade, okay, midterm, yeah. Sorry, what was the answer? Okay, she wants to be a pharmacist. Doesn't placement in a pharmacy, does she have more chances than those who did not do a placement? Absolutely, yes. Who decides? Okay, I don't know, but like it depends also where you are. The questions are not literal. I'm just thinking about the quality of questions from US. They also have their trends, right? Some years there's more questions about inclusivity and diversity. Some years there's more questions about the value of experience over grades. Some years there are more questions about Indigenous communities. McMaster's always has a question on Indigenous communities for the past 3 or 4 years, but prior to that they didn't. So that's an issue that's popular. There were questions. There used to be a lot of questions on artificial intelligence, computers, technology, that kind of thing. I haven't seen them in the last couple of years, but there are trends. Is it possible to provide a good example how to respond to such questions? Just trying to warm my head around. Which questions do you mean? Like give me a question and I'll give you a good example of how to respond to it.
Well, I guess, yeah, I'm just going to speak it faster. Just a question that has to do with diversity and inclusion. You gave example as, as a person from Philippines with doctors as parents. I'm sure majority of us here are not and don't have doctors for parents. So just for a group of people here, right, like something more relatable, how do we respond to that question correctly? You know, as I said, you know, to identify yourself as a certain minority. Are we minority? Are we majority? Where's that threshold that we shouldn't be, I guess, overstepping?
Okay. So the threshold, and I talked about the issue of becoming a liability for the university, right? So if you identify yourself as, let's say, a certain group, let's say Eastern European women, and um, which is probably the most, and no one talks about this, but um, in Western Europe, it's Eastern European women that end up with the most low paying jobs a lot of the time. And they're probably, I don't have the statistics on it, but probably the number one group for today's equivalent of slavery, human trafficking, and sex slavery. Very unfortunately, and no one talks about this. If you can identify yourself as that group and you can bring up working at volunteering at a shelter, helping refugee women with children, then definitely go ahead and identify yourself as an Eastern European woman who is a minority because um, like the Western may not consider you European enough or white enough or whatever, right? There's issues there as well. If you can show that you're belonging to that group.
Apologies, just to interrupt. I highly doubt that a 17-year-old would have worked in a shelter where sex abused victims were present, right? So that's
17-year-old,
something.
no.
Also, you know, majority of us are Eastern European or from Israel or white, I guess Caucasian males, right? So therefore, my question stands: what would be the best way to answer those questions in relation to the community that is present right now, like online?
So you don't have to work in a shelter with abused women, but you can work in an organization that um, raises money for that shelter. And you can volunteer and plan events, even a concert, like play piano to raise money for that cause, right? Or a place where they package food. You know how, like, recently a lot of stuff to soldiers, for example, to help their needs, right? Um, you don't have to like work in a war zone. You can be part of the team of volunteers who collect packages or um, spread awareness or pick up the phone and like tell people where they can drop things off to be sent overseas, that kind of thing, right? So there's a lot of the involvement with underprivileged communities is not direct. So, but only answer that question if you have something like that to show, right? You can, I've had students who played, a student who played piano at an old age home with a lot of Russian speaking seniors living in that home, and he played music that was familiar to them, right? And that helped him bring joy to the elderly through his music and also connect with his roots because he had to learn the music and feel the music, right? That was that kind of question. And it's not, you're not putting yourself in a war zone, you're not putting yourself next to victims whose stories you're too young to hear. But you are contributing and you're learning something from the connection to your roots, and your connection shows that you can make a positive change for other people, right? There's language barriers, right? So you might, let's say someone applying to medical school might say that they volunteered to take people who don't speak English to their doctor's appointments. That's related to medicine. It's volunteer work, and it shows your connection to your ethnic community, right? So the only way to answer this question is if you can show a personal contribution, right? If you belong to a community but you haven't done anything that makes you look good as a member of that community, don't answer that question. Replace it with something that shows all of those qualities and all of those values about yourself. Evelina, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you. That's much more helpful. Do we have to mention the community we're from? Because certain countries might be viewed from a certain angle right nowadays. So how do we, I guess, work around that issue?
Again, right? You don't want to be a liability, right? You don't want to be someone that feels so strongly about their cause that you're going to cause a riot and the university is going to have to apologize publicly for your behavior. So that's tricky. You don't have to mention necessarily which group of people. Well, if you're going to answer the question, it would be weird to say that you took elderly patients to their doctor's appointments to translate and help with the language barrier without mentioning which language it was. That would be weird. But that's a very neutral, like there's no negative spin on taking the elderly to their doctor's appointments. It's not like, organizing a protest, right? Or playing piano for the language of your listeners and taking the time to learn their music because you're the kind of person who takes time to accommodate other people's needs. There's no negative spin on that, regardless of what language that is, right? So it's only a liability when you're right. When your volunteer work had to do with organizing protests, then no. But if it's a positive contribution that shows wonderful qualities of the student, it doesn't matter what language they speak, they're still a good person. And that's obvious in the application.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Glad. Okay. I have said everything that was on my list. Let me just check. Yeah. I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Is it possible for you to respond to Andre's question? That's a wonderful question. You might have already, maybe.
Oh, here. Yeah, I didn't see it. Okay. Should we add to the application any references from teens' workplaces relative to the future undergrad program, volunteer jobs, professors, high school? Okay, kids speak fluently English, French, Spanish, Russian. Do they need these skills at university applications for BA programs? Waterloo, U of T, York. Thanks. Okay. Some universities have, I think, so Schulich definitely has a separate application where you do write the names of the people that worked with you for them to check references. And many of them deliberately, like if the question has to do with your experiences, your extracurricular, your volunteer experiences, they will say provide contact information. That's the only time you provide contact information if the university makes it clear that they want it. Languages, again, you mention it within the essays. You answer it if there's specific questions. Languages will definitely help. There's no doubt. And they do make you look good on applications. So, but find creative ways to fit that in. For example, how will you contribute to the atmosphere on campus? How will you contribute to the diversity on campus? languages is an excellent way to answer that question, right? You'll be able to communicate with different students and participate in study groups of different students and share materials and experiences because you speak all these languages. So definitely include that in campus related, what makes you a good candidate for this program. Languages is a part of that. You're a good candidate because you'll be able to communicate with all these different students on campus, but also because you can work in different countries, you will make the university look good all over the world. Because as a graduate of that university, you're going to apply for jobs anywhere and you can promote the university. Okay. Anything else?
Maria, whenever there is a supplemental application, right, that comes along with the regular application, do they state certain parameters, as you mentioned, 1,500 not word, but
Word count and character count is always included in the question.
So it is. Do they
either in
state
the question or at the beginning?
okay?
Like
So the parameters are
McMaster's University, for example, they have one page counts always. Yes.
okay. Do they state if there is also a supplemental video interview that you might have to do? For instance, Queens does that. I didn't know that until I spoke with the representative, that there is a video interview that you have to be prepared for. They give you, they give you a question, 10 minutes to get ready for it, and then you go. Do they state
UFT engineering as well, and even less minutes, like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
UFT as well, Waterloo as well, computer science at Waterloo, the same thing. Yes. And they record your answer. Usually that information is on their website, on the program's website, when you click on how to apply, or when you click on future students link, it gives you that information. It should be pretty clear. Most universities make it very clear on their websites, but it's always a good idea to call just in case, to make sure you didn't miss anything, or email the right person to make sure you didn't miss anything.
So just to recap, I guess, to understand better, what you do is you help students to write out that sort of an essay, right? Based on the questions that are provided by the university, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's part of what we do. We also have reading and writing classes starting from grade 2, both enrichment programs for kids who are doing well at school and tutoring for kids who are falling behind. But English only. We don't have math or science or any other subjects. Well, any subjects that have to do with writing, like if it's an essay in history or geography, we can certainly help with that. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Do you do it online? Is it in person? And where are you located?
For in person, we have a location at Dufferin and Confederation Parkway. So like roughly Dufferin between Highway 7 and Rutherford, and one in Newmarket across the street from Upper Canada Mall. And we do online as well. I wouldn't recommend online for younger students, though. High school students are okay most of the time. If we need your help, how we contact you. Okay, so I am in Tanya's group, Tatiana's group, Bright Minds, so you can just like tag me. And my name is Maria Griffith, you can contact me directly on Facebook, and I'll respond. And the business page, I'll post a link here as well. Where am I? If you can hear background noise, I apologize, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's a martial arts class upstairs. They're above me, and there's nothing I can do. And it sounds like they're throwing people across the room. I feel like I just posted that in a direct message to someone. Hold on, I'll try a different meeting group chat. Okay, it should be like this. So this is my name and this is the website, and but you can always tag me or message me on Facebook and I'll respond, and I'll be happy to connect over any questions. Okay. Tatiana, what do you think? Are we done? I'm glad it was helpful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Maria, for your time.
Thank you
There are a
so
lot
much
of
for
people
organizing.
asking me about video who didn't came here today. So
Okay,
when you will have recording, could you send it
takes
to me?
a couple of days though to we can, I guess, upload it on YouTube or whatever you do. I can upload it to my channel as well. We'll figure it out. Okay.
It was very helpful,
and
as usual. Every year you're doing it's it never repeats. So
thank you so much. And it's nice to have so many people. Let me know if you want to do this again in Russian in the next few weeks. We should be able to. I just don't want to like push it into December because then it's like kids are really stressed out if they have to write these. But the applications have to be written in English. So, okay.
Oh, Maria,
I'm gonna
one
go
question. Yeah, one question.
before this.
Do universities change their, I guess, applications process? You know, sometimes they need a supplemental and sometimes they don't. I'm just thinking, is there some sort of like Excel spreadsheet? You know, this university, you must do this, right? Instead of going through each one of the, prospectuses that they give out.
They have changed, but the change is slow, right? So, for example, Ryerson University used to have nothing at all. They just took you through your marks. When some of their programs are becoming more and more popular and they have to filter people out, they do change their application process.
Yeah.
And they also add new programs. For example, Waterloo Mechatronics. Someone asked me about what about applications for Waterloo Mechatronics? That program has only existed for a couple of years, right? So they do change, but it's usually not an abrupt change. But you can't have a spreadsheet that's going to last you for years and years. You always have to check because as certain programs become more popular, they make it harder and they add to their process. They never make it easier though. So I wouldn't expect a university that needed a supplemental essay last year all of a sudden doesn't need it anymore. I don't think so.
будем надеяться, что через 10-20 лет будут уже такие специалисты, которые достроят нам сабвей, метро.
Ну что, в этом июне нам всем работа нужна. Так что ж.
Да. Мария, можно мне минуточку?
Да.
Спасибо огромное еще раз вам. Рекомендовала и буду продолжать вас рекомендовать как прекрасного специалиста. Долгие годы знаю вас. Всем студентам огромного успеха
Всем студентам
поступлении.
удачи, да.
Да, удачи. Хочу сказать, что через 2 недели в это же время будет встреча в нашем же проекте «Живая профориентация» с лицензированным массажистом. Вот. Так что это из другой оперы, но очень тоже полезно. 10 декабря приглашаем всех, кто хочет, у кого есть детки еще младшего возраста, на зимнее шоу Winter Journey Intro, цирк и музыку. Всем, кто участвовал сегодня в встрече, скидка $5 с билета. Спасибо огромное, Мария.
Это вот с Ларисой, с Wonderful World of Circus, с Татьяной, да?
Да. Да, Татьяна будет.
Отлично.
Мгм.
Всем спасибо, кто пришел. Надеюсь, что было полезно. Удачи всем студентам и всем хорошего вечера, ночи уже. До свидания.